Alright, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down reading water for steelhead in Lake Erie Tributaries. And at times, reading water in Lake Erie Tributaries can be very easy, especially when the water is low, shallow slate bottoms. Some of the holes are pretty easy to read, and you can just see the fish in there sometimes. That makes it easy. Busier days, you may have to look for secondary options, kind of your B, C, and D water, for fish to find success. Kind of when those most popular holes are taken up and there's like 6 or 7 anglers crowded in there, as unfortunately happens in kind of our limited water here in Western New York. But just kind of breaking down some of my thought process, looking at a few different spots, a few different holes, just kind of sharing my thoughts, and at times definitely rambling a little bit. This is much more like some of my older style videos, just kind of capturing some freeze frames, kind of drawing on the screen, and kind of talking you through kind of what I'm thinking. Hopefully there's some information in here for you guys that you find useful and helps you be successful in your next trip out on the water. Hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you in the next one. Right here we see our first spot. You can see I'm mid hand twist, kind of performing just an excellent hand twist right here, if I do say so myself. But all seriousness, kind of looking here at our first spot, kind of the big thing that kind of jumps out to me when I'm looking at this spot, and I did kind of wade up in there. There's a big kind of slate shelf kind of behind me, and it is situated so that you can kind of stand on it. It kind of comes like all the way out here, and then you can kind of fish through this kind of flat at the back right from that shelf, and kind of only have your feet in kind of a couple inches of water. Which, funnily enough, one thing I've noticed since being on these rivers again is that fishermen are almost always wearing waders when steelhead fishing, but they almost never use them. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the river and seen someone wearing full waders, neoprene waders, breathable waders, whatever it may be, and they're just standing on the bank, or they're looking for kind of a place where they can stand and kind of on a rock or a couple inches of water, which I do get because the water is cold, but also you have waders, so use them, kind of get closer to the fish, make your life easier. Yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. But I'm standing at just a little bit over knee deep, and there was kind of a nice little soft pocket over here on this side of this riffle here, which I did put a couple of casts in, and I did fish this shelf line over here that I was talking about, and that water was pretty shallow, also pretty shallow here to my left. So kind of covered both of that before I waited in position here. But really what I had my eyes on was this pocket right here that kind of arches at the top, kind of follows the edges of these two kind of riffles here. Now, before I get into the pocket, kind of these two riffles, if I was trout fishing and there was gravel and boulders and stuff, these riffles here I think would be pretty good options for fish to hold. However, what you have to remember with these steelhead rivers is the bottom is mostly made of slate. It's pretty much just bedrock, and it's pretty flat. So if I look at the contour here, this line just being kind of the depth, this is the water surface up here, it just kind of is flat, just like that. So any fish that's kind of sitting along the bottom here is just taking the current. Like there's nothing disrupting the current. Like it's just getting full blasted with the current, and there's really no place to rest. I mean, the fish is basically just on a giant treadmill the entire time, which I don't know about you. I mean, I actually do really like to run. I don't really want to be on the treadmill all day. I'm good with my few miles and then hop off and, have a sandwich or something like that. I don't want to be in a big treadmill all day, and neither do they. Now, I didn't walk through this riffle here just because the water was pretty dirty, not a lot of visibility, kind of trying to remember kind of what some of these spots were like. So if this riffle kind of came down, again, this being the water surface here, and it was kind of shallow here, and then kind of dropped off like this, and kind of the current could kind of come over the top like so, and these fish were sitting down in here, then this would be an excellent spot. Kind of this riffle over here would be awesome. However, based on what I experienced, because this shelf line below me that I was standing on does come out like here, I did fish this, and I was just kind of hitting the bottom very quickly and easily. I think it was only really a couple of feet deep, kind of down here in the tail out. So I just don't think that was the case. I can't even remember if I put some cast into the riffle. I don't think I did. But because of that, I am looking at this pocket here to kind of be my most likely water for there to be some fish. So, and there did actually end up being like a rock that had like a stick wedged in it or something like this right here. There was some sort of structure right here. I kept hooking it. I think I ate a couple of my flies, which is just the reality of it. But so kind of adjacent to these two currents here, I just have this nice soft pocket. And before I go any further, I just kind of want to roll my drift, and you can just kind of see kind of how slowly my flies moved through the pocket. So yeah, I mean, as you watch my sighter, I mean, my fly was moving so slow sometimes I actually had to jig it just to check to see if I had a fish on. And I mean, oftentimes I didn't. I mean, I really had to make a lot of casts through here to get any interest from the fish. But then even like I was talking about, I mean, there's no structure here. So these fish, are just taking the current. And again, I don't know how many fish were really in here. But even so, with how slow this was, the only fish that I caught were right in front of this piece of structure here, wherever it was. So I hooked 2 fish, landed one of them. Neither one of them was particularly very big. Those are hideous fish, but that's where they were located. It was kind of right in front of that structure. And so even in that slow water, they kind of wanted to be near something that created a little bit of a hydro pocket and just kind of help them out a little bit. Like I said, these fish don't want to be on a giant treadmill all day. So this slow water in here just kind of makes sense to be kind of the best, most likely holding water. This on the other side here also looked fantastic. I got a little skew, but there's a nice deep run here. It actually kind of shot this way and eddied. I did fish it for a little bit from the other side, but I did not catch anything through there. But better fish from the other side. I definitely couldn't make that cast from here with like a center pin rig. You probably could, maybe. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with center pinning in all honesty. But kind of both edges of the current, kind of in the slow water, is kind of where you're looking for, just right here. I just want to show you this kind of freeze frame here real quick, just to kind of show you, I think the next closest spot for a fish to hold is like way around the bend over here. Like it's somewhere over here on the backside of these bushes. So you have this long stretch of river, and I know it doesn't look long in the photo, but this straight right here is pretty long. You have this long stretch of river here where there's essentially no spot for a fish to hold, to really kind of stop and rest. So they have to kind of run this in one run. So they're going to get to the top of this pretty tired. Here, this is kind of the next kind of frame up from where that river kind of curved to the left. All of this down here, super shallow. I mean, that's still not really spots where fish can hold. And so you can kind of see I'm kind of casting way upriver and kind of letting the drift kind of come back down. And that's specifically because of how shallow it is, which I'll show you here in this next image. Kind of through here, you kind of finally start to see some depth kind of from that shallow stuff that was over here. However, this is still not a lot of depth. This is definitely a fish that's kind of resting from running up. There is some like jagged spots in the slate, kind of some cracks, kind of some slots for some fish to sit. And there was a couple fish kind of spotted in here that I spotted on my I walked up through and kind of looked for fish first and then kind of circled back. I really wanted to see how aggressive the fish were. The reality is I'm way too close. If there's a fish, which that might have actually been a fish, I don't know for sure, but there was fish that I spotted really close along this edge here, just kind of resting and kind of hanging out, still suspended. So I don't know if they would have eaten something or not, but I'm way too close, and I know that. I just didn't want to change my rig. This would be a perfect opportunity to kind of fish a dry dropper rig, or like a light little yarn indicator, or like one of those little foam pinch on indicators would be great too, with just kind of like a single small nymph below it. That's how I would recommend fishing it, but definitely way too close here with kind of my Euro rig, and you can even see kind of as I play the video. How splashy my flies are, and they're just way too heavy. I'm hooking bottom so often. But again, I was just kind of scouting some water, just trying to check things out, kind of see where fish were. But this, I noticed, there was like, 2, 3, 4 fish in here, nothing crazy. But this could certainly be a viable option if you kind of get a big run and kind of need some fish to kind of rest in some of this water right here. This spot right here is actually the top of where we were just looking, kind of that little tail out kind of hole for those fish to kind of rest after making long runs. This is actually at the top of the run, and you can kind of see kind of the dark kind of color change here, kind of creating this deeper slot right here. Now, color changes are a really great indicator of depth change, which again, in these slate bottom rivers, kind of bedrock rivers, any little depth change kind of getting you out of the current is enough for there to be a fish behind it. And the one downside about slate is sometimes this color is actually changed in the slate. So you have one piece of slate here that's this color, and you'll have another piece of slate that's dark that color, and so it's not actually a depth change. So you just have to be conscientious of that. This, however, is a true depth change. There is actually a little bit deeper of a slot right here. Full transparency, there was no fish in here, but with there being fish at the bottom of the run, this kind of seemed like a likely spot for there to be some. Plus it was in the shade, kind of protected by the wall here, so I thought this might be a good spot. And perhaps with a few more fish pushing through, maybe perhaps it is a good spot. Definitely something. This is definitely a spot to kind of bookmark, and then if there's a high water event, I know that there's a little bit of depth right here, and potentially target this spot here for fish trying to get out of that higher, pushier water. Here is just kind of one of the spots, kind of one of the inspirations for even kind of making this video. It's just a funny spot for a fish to hole. I mean, there's really no structure down this way. I don't know why my line ran right there. There's really no structure down this way, and there's really no structure up here. There's a little bit of a break in the slate right there, but it's really not much to write home about. The only structure kind of in this long stretch of river is this singular rock right here. And there's a crack in the slate. You can kind of see it there in the darkness, kind of that dark spot right there. There's a crack in the slate, and then there's actually a stick that kind of comes out in front of that rock like that way. And there was just one singular fish just kind of sitting like right back here. He was like crooked. He was like facing that way, kind of angled towards the wall. And it was a tough drift. I got way too close to him. I mean, this is like inches of water. Like there's no water there. I shouldn't be getting anywhere near close. Should be standing way back here, kind of lobbing a dry dropper with a light nymph kind of up this way, kind of bring it down to the fish this way. Again, was just kind of scouting out, but I thought it was funny, and it's kind of one of those things, on a busy river day, take the time to kind of fish. I mean, this is the shortest, like this pocket is from here to here. I mean, and this stuff over here is even pretty questionable. I mean, it's more like from here to here. Like that's the spot for the fish to sit. And granted, it's not a very big fish, but it's a fish. And on a busy day when kind of some of the more popular spots are kind of full of people, you can potentially sneak down here and catch this guy right here. Come to a spot like this, and frankly, yeah, that's as good as it gets right there, folks. So the couple things I'll point out. I mean, hopefully I don't have to point this out, but you have this big foam line here, right? So you know you have this slow water here, and you have kind of this fast water coming down. So you have this slot kind of here. Make it a different color. Oop, that's not it. You have this slot. Come on. You have this slot coming down between the current and the dead water over here to my left, your left on the screen too. And then this water down here is actually pretty shallow gravel. I did fish my way up through it, and I threw some casts back here, even though I could kind of see down in there and not see any fish. I just wanted to work it and make some casts as not to kind of scare fish back here where they run up and kind of scare all the fish up that way. So I did kind of work my way in there, and if you notice by my rod angle here, I'm casting upstream, way up here. You know, I'm standing back here, and I'm casting way up this way, way behind the fish's cone of vision, or at least the best I can. As you can see the bottom through most of the run. I could see the fish down in here. Some of these fish over here I couldn't see in the riffle, so I did catch a fair number of dinks out of this river. Kind of I believe they stocked steelhead smolts. Well, I caught most of them. So anyways, I was after the big ones. I caught the little ones, but it's all good. But these fish are kind of stacked kind of through here. If I could keep my hands still, they're just kind of stacked through here all the way up to the top. There is some fish out here in the riffle as well, just because there's a pretty good shelf line right here. There's a pretty good shelf line right here, and kind of right here as well, kind of creating kind of this nice bowl here at the bottom for all those fish to just kind of sit right in there. So yeah, I mean, this is an ideal spot. Up at the top was not so handsome, but kind of all of the, I mean, this went up quite a little bit here, but all this through here, this is perfect water. This water right here is actually pretty shallow, and there's like a wall like right here behind me, kind of some rocks behind me. And I just kind of skirted along the wall rather than standing up on it. Just because I didn't, you know, you stand up on the wall, like up here, you know, I'm 6'4", my head's all the way up here, and there's a fish right here, like, he can 100% see me. I mean, he could probably see me where I'm standing right here, but this is kind of my best option. Again, you know, maybe like a light indicator and a nymph casting way back here. Maybe would a little bit better. I did catch a medium-sized fish, a jack, out of this run. I didn't catch any of the big ones, unfortunately, but I did try my hardest.
Come here, buddy. Oh, no.